Well, can you believe we've only got 4 episodes left of Shogun? The show seems to be flying by, and following the release of the most recent episode, episode 6, which showed that the Crimson Sky was going to be carried out, FX have now released their trailer for the upcoming episode, episode 7, titled A Stick of Time. With the usual 24-second preview being given to us, I thought I'd see what could be broken down from it, whilst also giving my theories and predictions on what I think could happen next. So let's get into it. Here is Shogun episode 7 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. There will be some mention from the book too, so if you want to go into the episode not knowing anything, then this video might not be for you. So the trailer for the next episode opened up with Lord Yoshi Toranaga meeting with somebody in the woods, with it seeming like his men weren't that far behind him. It's hard to make out who it was that was in front of Toranaga-sama, but I would have to presume that based on how the previous episode finished, it could be his half-brother, Zataki, the individual that was mentioned who Toranaga would look to form an alliance with in order to carry out Crimson Sky. They were both standing at a distance from each other and bowed their heads towards one another, showing a level of respect. When you look at the synopsis to the episode, one of the lines says, Toranaga is forced to carve out a new deal with a long-lost family member, so I think it's most certainly pointing towards that person being a relative of Yoshi Toranaga. Toranaga's half-brother Zataki did actually declare himself against Toranaga and on the side of Ishido, so this could be the reason why the meeting is so formal between the both of them, because Toranaga is most likely going to need to persuade his half-brother to switch alliances and promise many things in order for his loyalty. I feel that is what's probably going to happen, and we'll see the two brothers form some kind of alliance to make the siege of Osaka even stronger on the side of the Eastern Army. This shot was so beautifully structured. The fog in the background amongst all of the trees looks like it's really providing that ominous feel that it's going for. And the fact that Toranaga and Zataki are on two completely different sides just looking at one another, it really does reinforce that the two brothers are quite literally on different sides of the battle and the war that they're going to be on. So it was a good visual representation of it. After this opening shot, there was a line that was spoken by John Blackthorne towards Mariko, and he said, "What happens if he surrenders?" To which Mariko responded by saying, Toranaga-sama will be sentenced to death. I do wonder why John Blackthorne is saying this. My guess would be that maybe Toranaga has been given an option, an all-out war, or the possibility to surrender. And maybe John Blackthorne just isn't aware of what would happen if Toranaga were to surrender. But either way, it shows that the stakes are at the highest that they've been in the show so far, and maybe the sheer amount of death and the fear of going into battle and war is getting to Blackthorne. Because we must remember as well, this is all very much out of Blackthorne's comfort zone. He isn't a formidable warrior like many of the men that stand before him, nor has he ever really been involved in any great battles. So he might be fearful of what's to come. The next part of the trailer was then focused on a scene with Toda Buntaro speaking with Toranaga and Mariko. Buntaro said the line, "I beg permission to take the barbarian's head." Toda Buntaro and John Blackthorne haven't seen eye to eye in the slightest from the very first time that the show began. And it seems like that's something that's going to be continuing on into the next episode. The rivalry between them was at its peak during episode 5 when Blackthorne confronted Buntaro after he hurt Mariko, and it hasn't dropped down a level since then. As Buntaro said this to Toranaga, Toranaga looked over at Mariko with a suspicious look in his eye. In the previous episode, he did ask her what was going on between herself and the Anjin, to which she wasn't totally honest. So I feel this could be linked to the time where Mariko and John Blackthorne were intimate with one another. We know that Mariko doesn't actually want to be with Toda Buntaro, as we saw in the flashback on the day of their wedding. She felt like there was nothing to gain from being associated with his family name, plus he treated her horrifically. But what we did see was that Buntaro did actually love Mariko, so I believe he's either going to find out about what happened between Mariko and John, or he's going to be growing suspicious and getting jealous of the way that Mariko acts when they're together, because maybe he'll see how John is making Mariko extremely happy, something that he's just simply unable to do. I feel it's probably the latter, because I think if it was the first, then it would have also brought shame upon Mariko, and not only would John most likely be killed, but Mariko would be too. So I think it could just be jealous tendencies coming to the forefront. Toranaga values John Blackthorne greatly, so I 100% don't believe that Toranaga will give permission for Buntaro to kill John. However, in the next scene there was a moment where John Blackthorne was on the floor and Yabushigi had his sword out, and then out of the corner of the shot, Toda Buntaro ran over and placed the sword at John's neck. John said the line, "Well, go on then." There were two things that I took away from this. One is that Buntaro is clearly jealous and is aware of the fact that he's losing his wife to this person that he refers to as a barbarian. Plus, also, the confident nature of John Blackthorne was something that came out too. He saw how easily it was for people to be killed when he first arrived in Japan. But he's so confident in himself now and knows his worth to Toranaga-sama that he's actually seeing how far he can push Buntaro. Something which is a real change in the character. Buntaro looked so frustrated in the shot where it was getting closer to his face, knowing that he couldn't even scare John Blackthorne anymore. Toranaga will most likely be extremely unhappy with this. He's facing a great war in itself with enemies in the west, so the fact that his most formidable warrior is fighting with somebody who he trusts most is something that he most definitely won't want. They are not the enemies in this. The next part of the trailer then focused on Nagakado asking his father a question. He said, "What have you decided? Do we die with blood on our sword?" I think this could be something which goes back to the question that John Blackthorne asked Mariko in the first part of the trailer. Maybe Toranaga is going to be given the opportunity to surrender, and if he does, then his men might be spared. So he may have taken some time to think about what to do. Because if he's not confident that he can take Osaka, Ishido, and the Western Army, then he may feel a sense of responsibility to his men, and feel like their lives aren't worth losing over it, and he may go quietly himself. But I don't think he's going to go quietly or feel like he's going to lose. This is Yoshi Toranaga, the man that comes across like a strong leader, warrior, and figure. So I think we're going to be watching him and his men charging into Osaka with the intention of taking it over completely. Like I said in my previous video, the Battle of Sekigahara has to occur as it's such a poignant part of that history, so I don't think they'd deviate from that. Then we entered the final part of the trailer, and it was Toranaga saying, "There's no future for some of us." And as the line was being spoken, it looked like a battle was soon to be taking place during the dead of night. So it definitely feels like there's going to be some sense of conflict arising in the next episode of the show, and there are going to be some deaths which arrive which will change the balance of both of the armies. It very much feels like the next episode is going to be focused on Toranaga-sama and the decision that he has to make in how he's going to approach taking Osaka, and if the casualties are going to be worth the risk. Plus, it also feels like Toda Buntaro and John Blackthorne's conflict is going to be getting a large focus too, so division and conflict is going to be at the heart of the next episode for sure. There was nothing of Ishido, Lady Ochiba, or any of the main characters in Osaka in the preview, so I'm intrigued to see if anybody from there will make an appearance, or if it's mainly going to be focused in Izu. With only 4 episodes to go, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. So, there you have it. Shogun Episode 7 Trailer Explained. If you want to see more videos on Shogun, then click on the card in the top corner. I've been providing breakdowns on every episode of the show so far, along with delving into the real historical figures behind the characters. So if you want to see more, then head over to the channel too. What do you think will happen in Episode 7? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.